स्पोर्ट्स से जुड़ी किसी भी छोटी या बड़ी अपडेट के लिए सब्सक्राइब करें स्पोर्ट्स तक और साथ ही किसी भी नोटिफिकेशन को पाने के लिए बेल आइकन को दबाना ना भूलें।
As always, it's our ritual, no? Every IPL, KKR, on India Today, we've been talking almost every year. And each of these people, Robin Uthappa, very close friend, Chris Lynn and Simon Katich. Start of the season, excited, tense, what it's looking like, to talk to me over the next few minutes. Robin, I'll start with you. Back at home, back at Eden Gardens. Yes. This is your appropriated home. Last time we met in Mumbai. Not your den anymore. You've got to be here. How is it looking?
Well, it's good. Pretty excited for the start of the season. I think last year we had a few clinks that we needed to address, and I think those have been addressed. And I think everyone are really excited, and we can't wait for the tournament to begin. To be very honest,
as a senior pro, years with KKR, know everything about the setup here. How are the challenges for you as a cricketer, individually as a cricketer?
As a cricketer, honestly, the support from the franchise has been great so far. So I think whatever challenges we face are challenges that we experience or that we face on the field. Off the field, they make it as easy as possible for us. So I think individually, I think all the things that want to go out there and execute for the side. I think those are the things that I need to match up to. But outside of that, I think they take care of us extremely well here.
Simon, when you take over as coach, you've got an extremely talented bunch, whether it's Robin, Chris, Kuldeep, Sunil, Shubman. How do you approach the start of the season? And specifically as someone who batted at the top of the order, a word on Shubman Gill. All of the world is talking about him. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, he's an exciting prospect. I thought he was outstanding last season for us. To see an 18-year-old kid come into the IPL for the first time and play a role that a lot of experienced players find hard to play, particularly batting in that sort of number 6, number 7 finishing role. Certainly not an easy role, and he played it beautifully. I think he averaged probably about 35 at a strike rate of 145, which is very, very impressive, even for an experienced player. But for an 18-year-old kid to do that was phenomenal. So he brings a lot to the group. Obviously, when you've got young kids coming into your setup, it's nice to have the experience around them like these guys, and to see him and another youngster like Rinku Singh keep developing. That's something that deserves a lot of credit. That the KKR Academy that's been set up with Abhishek Nair, the boys have done a lot of hard work over the last 6 months or so, and hopefully that'll hold them in good stead for this tournament.
Chris, 2 questions to you before I go back to Robin. One on yourself. I watched you at the Brisbane Heat, watched you last year, several years now. How is Chris Lynn approaching this tournament and this whole thing about the aura, Chris Lynn and big hits, does that put additional pressure on you in any way that you've got to hit even good bowlers out of the park? And the second question will be on Kuldeep and Shubman. And as someone who's played with both of them over the years, how do you see them evolve?
Yeah, obviously, going back to your first question, I think there's obviously always expectation, but I think I'm the hardest marker of everyone, and I expect high standards of myself, and the body's first and foremost, and that's really good at the moment. And then, I've got a job to do at the top of the order for KKR, and the fans certainly put you under a little bit more pressure, but it's great. The support we get at Eden Gardens is amazing, and I'm ready to rock and roll this year, and feel like we can go 1 or 2 better than last year.
So bowlers will also rock and roll. Once they're hit it out of the park. So core bowlers will jidbore rock and roll. Yeah,
no, look, that's the plan. Look, if we get some runs on the board early, get momentum early, I think that's important in a 14-game season. So it's, as I said, get momentum early, and then we'll flow from there. But first and foremost, we've got a big game coming up on Sunday.
Kuldeep and Shubman. Kuldeep, you've played for 6 years now, if I'm right. And Shubman, you've seen over the last year or so. How do you see the two of them evolve?
Yeah, it's been awesome to watch Kuldeep develop over the last 6 years. Obviously, when I first come into the system, he was a short sort of stumpy guy, rolling his leg spinners out, but now he's fit, he's strong, and he's developed his game. His variation is a lot more harder to pick now, and he's a world-class bowler. He's made a name for himself on the world stage, which is really impressive at his age. And Shubman, I think he got an opportunity last year, and he showed the world what he can do. He debuted in New Zealand not long ago, but I think this year he's going to have a breakout season without putting too much pressure on him. He can bat anywhere in the order, and I think he's going to take some teams by surprise.
Robin, the same question to you. When you've seen these guys in domestic cricket also, you've played with them in domestic cricket. from the perspective of India, also from the perspective of KKR, very, very important. How do you see these youngsters, question number one, specifically these two, and the gelling between senior pros like you and Chris and DK, especially you and Chris, because within the circle, to advise DK when the game is so fast, how do you see your role as a leader in that group?
Well, for me, I think starting off with Shubman and Kuldeep, I think both of them have extremely talented, and Kuldeep is someone who's evolved over the last 5 or 6 years as a bowler, as a human being, someone who's really worked on his fitness. He was one of the hardest working members in the group when he was not playing during the IPL, and I think he always loved bowling, and I think he's, as a bowler, you've seen him become brave, and he's become more courageous as a bowler. Tossing the ball up, getting the ball to drift in one-day cricket. Not something that we see very often anymore. So I think he's really come into his own as a bowler, and I think over the next few years we'll really see him expressing himself as a human being on the field. I think it's an exciting few years for Kuldeep, and I think someone who's going to be a mainstay within the Indian team, and definitely in KKR, but also in the Indian team, the Indian setup. I think he'll be one of the mainstays as far as the spin is concerned in the Indian cricket team. As far as Shubman is concerned, again, I think someone who's got a very level head on his shoulders, someone who's very sorted in his mind, knows what he wants to do as far as game is concerned, how he wants to approach, and a hard-working lad at that. Someone who's willing to put in the yards, and someone who knows that he's talented, and who's probably a prodigy and the next big thing in Indian cricket, but still has a very firm head on his shoulders, and takes it one day at a time. Very humble kid, very well brought up. A lot of credit must be given to his parents, coming from that part of the country, and to be able to be that humble and that aware of himself at that age, it's fantastic.
Fabulous answer. I mean, that's why I went to Robin, because he can do that. He's been able to do that, taking a distance from his role as a player. Simon, one critical question that I've got to ask you, as part of the coaching staff. I mean, this is a question that's being asked of a lot of these Indian stars. Sachin, for example, has been on record saying players need to manage their workload themselves given the World Cup's coming. Virat's on record saying the same. Is there a strategy in KKR? What is the vision? We all know the World Cup is 10 days after the IPL. When you approach a tournament like this, you've got some key players, Chris Lynn, Australia, not in the one-day setup yet, but can be, Kuldeep Yadav, Dinesh Karthik, India players, other teams as well. How are you approaching the IPL, keeping this national question in mind?
Yeah, look, obviously our perspective is on trying to win this tournament. We've been knocking on the door for the last couple of years in the last 2 prelim finals. We haven't been able to barge through, so hopefully this year is the one where we get through and can get to a final. And I think we've certainly got the depth in our squad, and also the performers. I think last year we had a very consistent batting lineup where 6 of the guys, I think we had 6 out of the top 25 batsmen for runs scored. So we know we've got the ability there. Our big improvement's got to come in the field. We let ourselves down at times in the field, but we've certainly got the individual talent in this squad and the variety. In terms of the workload, we're very mindful of the workload of the players, so I think we trust the players when it comes to, if guys say that they need to have a day off and have a breather. Jacques very big on that, and I know I'll certainly back that up as well, because at the end of the day, a lot of this game is played in the mind, and the guys have played a lot of cricket throughout the summer. They're all very good players. Then it comes down to game day, knowing what you want to do and what you want to achieve, and being clear in your thought process. And a lot of the times it doesn't mean that you have to go and hit 1,000 balls to go and have success. It's just about making sure you're right mentally. And I think with the workload the guys have had, and not just the players playing international cricket, but also the domestic players, they've played a lot of cricket, so they've just got to trust their games are in good order, which they are, because a lot of the boys have had very good domestic seasons.
Robin, similar question. I mean, there are 2 perspectives here. One, what Simon just said, MSK Prasad and Sunil Gavaskar were with me on India Today Conclave, and both of them said you actually need game time as well. So 4 overs, if you're bowling, you're in the middle of a tournament which is high intensity, will keep you ready. The other perspective is, if you're a fast bowler, if you're a bowler, you've got to manage your workload with the World Cup in mind. As player, and who's played with them, and as an India player, as a KKR player, is there a perfect balance? Can there be a synergy?
In my personal opinion, I think more than balancing workload, I think managing recovery is what is critical. I think 4 overs for fast bowlers or spinners are not going to really make a dent in their body unless they're carrying some form of injury. Or if they have a niggle during the course of a game, then they need to manage workload. But I think if they're fit through the season, I think what becomes really important is managing the recovery and making sure they've recovered well after every game, especially given how we travel during the IPL. I think those are the aspects that are important for people who are going to be playing for their country in the World Cup. So I think if they can pay attention to those factors, I think they'll be okay. Because you're going to be playing a 50-over World Cup, and you'll be bowling 4 overs here, batting for maybe 20 overs at the max. So I think it's a good preparation leading up to the World Cup, given how cricket's played today, the intensity at which cricket's played today. I think it's a good preparation. I think the only thing the players really need to work around is their recovery. They can really focus on their recovery. I don't think it'll have an impact on their preparations for the World Cup.
Chris, coming to you, you've played franchise cricket around the world. Brisbane Heat, I've watched you play for Brisbane Heat. KKR now, 5-6 seasons for KKR. Talk about the franchise. I mean, I've known franchises in the past. I don't want to name anyone. There's been pressure on the players. If you've not delivered, there are questions asked, and that sort of ruffles feathers everywhere. What about KKR? I mean, how is it to play with these guys, one with this coaching staff and the team together with the owners?
Yeah, first and foremost, there's obviously your family, your immediate family, but then there's your cricket family. I think KKR, first and foremost, combine them. And I think if life's good off the field, on the field will take care of itself. And I think the beauty of KKR is the owners in Jay Mehta and Shorig, and then with Venki Meister. I think when they come into the change room after a game, win, lose or draw, they're the same person. They're very consistent in their approach to the players, and they give the players that warmth that everyone's going to have a bad day here or there. So they keep showing belief, and they don't put too much pressure on each other. And as a player, it's so welcoming to know that they want you in the group and you're there for a reason. Yeah, you're going to have a bad day, but it just makes you go out there and play with that freedom without having the expectation to win. So I think that's probably part of the success that KKR's had over the number of years, that the players feel comfortable in their own skin and in their own game, and the support staff show belief in the players and again give us that freedom to go out there and play and entertain for the fans.
Simon, as a coach, when you're dealing with senior pros, it's relatively easier. These guys have been there, done that. But when it's about youngsters, young people coming into the side, 2 months away from home, pressures, India can be very much in your face, fans asking for 6 million selfies in 2 months. So all of that, and we are aware of that. I mean, we, the media, put pressure. How do you sort of, deal with that stuff with the youngsters, and how do you groom them as someone from the back room?
Yeah, look, it's a good question, because that's one of the biggest challenges for young players coming into tournaments like this or international cricket, playing at the highest level. A lot of it comes down to believing that they can transfer their skills from the domestic level, which is obviously a step down, to the big stage. And a lot of it then comes down to having those chats, trying to prepare them as well as they possibly can so that their practice is as close to the intensity of a game. It's never easy to do that unless the players obviously put themselves under that pressure at training. But I think the big advantage that we do have, and we've got a number of players that probably, as coaches, particularly foreign coaches, the language barrier can be a bit of an issue with them. So thankfully we've got a really good group of Indian coaches that help bridge that gap, and they've made a big difference, one, with that barrier, but two, also with understanding their games and being around them throughout the year. It's always difficult in a tournament like this to have a big impact as a coach when it's only an 8-week tournament. But when you've got coaches that are around them throughout the year doing the camps that we've done, that helps the young players. But I think young players, the opportunities they've got these days is phenomenal to be in tournaments like this or play in other franchises around the world. Obviously it's harder, the Indian players aren't allowed to do that, which is a bit of a shame, because I think it'd be great for their development. Like, for instance, a young Shubman Gill getting to play in our franchise in the Caribbean for TKR would be a magnificent opportunity for him, and also for the Caribbean fans to see a player of his class. But hopefully that might change down the track. But for someone like Lenny to have this opportunity 5 or 6 years ago, and the young Australian boys to get over here and play in Indian conditions, it's great for their development. So there's a mixture of ideas and thoughts and how to approach playing cricket in this part of the world, and that's the beauty of what the young players have got at their disposal now, is being shown these opportunities.
Teams have been somewhat sort of redone. If you take a bit of a backseat and wear your commentator's hat, he's done that as well. He's done everything. He's played for India. He's still a superstar. He's a brilliant batsman. Very good wicket keeper. He's done commentary. Robin Uthappa. 360 degrees, Chris Lynn says about Shubman Gill. No, I'll say that about Robin Uthappa. Robin, if you analyze the teams for me, sitting in my chair, how do you look at KKR and the overall balance?
Well, I think if you look at every setup, if you look at every side, every franchise, I think on paper all of us look fantastic. But the beauty about T20 cricket is about how you rock up on that first game and how you create momentum for yourself in a tournament like this. I think that's the most important part. And I think momentum plays a huge factor in a tournament like this, because if you don't have momentum going your way, irrespective of what kind of superstars you have in your side, you can't put up a great performance in the whole tournament. And I think for me personally, I've noticed over the last 10-11 years that momentum plays a huge factor, and how quickly you can turn around a defeat into a victory. That is a huge thing. And obviously home ground advantages are a thing that most teams want to take advantage of. But I think that most teams, almost every side, if you look at it on paper, are fantastic sides. You can't really differentiate them. Even man to man, they're right up there with each other. So it really depends on how a team works, how the camaraderie comes along just at the time the tournament begins, how teams look after themselves.
Stop you there. In fact, the question that was asked last year was KKR was maybe a little bit underdone because these guys were youngsters.
We were written off at the beginning of the tournament. At the end of the auction, we were quite literally written off, saying we didn't have a leader, we didn't have experienced players within the group. We still got to the last four. We finished third in the tournament last year.
But this year, same guys, whether it's a Shubman Gill, whether it's all these guys. Yes, Shivam and Kamlesh are not there, but Karyappa with a very good Syed Mushtaq Ali and good domestic season. You guys are looking stronger.
Yep, I definitely feel we're a much more rounded side this year than we were last year. I think, like I said, a few clinks in the armour that we needed to fix, I think those are fixed. And in that sense, all of us are really looking forward to going into the tournament and giving our best out there. And like I said, I think you wanna hit the road running. So I think the first few games are going to be important to get a few wins under your belt, and then that helps create momentum to carry the team forward into the tournament. I think this tournament is split into two different parts. The league phase is one tournament, and then the eliminators and the knockouts are another tournament completely.
Let's finish it off. Simon will lead as the coach. Robin will close as the leader in the group, because we've been very good hosts. So Chris will come second. Come on, let's do Korbo Lorbo Jeet Bore. You lead.
Korbo Lorbo Jeet Bore.
Come on.
Korbo Lorbo Jeet Bore.
Beautiful. Robin, close it.
Jeet jayenge, jeetenge, jeetenge.
Fabulous.
Thank you.
This season, KKR is actually looking much stronger. And if the season goes well, even if it doesn't go well, who cares? I'll still be with these guys because they are really good blokes to talk to. It's a franchise that's got tremendous support at the Eden Gardens. We will all cheer for them, and hopefully they'll have a fabulous season. Thanks for watching.